This is Attar, CEO and co-founder of Realtyna. I'm happy to talk with you today about implementation of RESO Web API in international markets. To give you a little bit of background about us, we are a software company with full focus on real estate markets since 2007, and we have clients in 86 different countries. So today we will go through the global use of RESO Web API and how we can actually expand the reach of this standard globally. First, we are going to discuss about the current situation in international markets. At this moment, except the US and Canada and a couple of other countries, you cannot find MLS function in any other country. You cannot see associations, real estate associations, as you can see in US. And this created kind of chaos in database structures. For example, like each broker, they decide about the database structure themselves. They have their own website with their own format, and even they exchange the data between themselves, like by email or very non-standard XML format, totally customized to their own needs. So this is how the exchange of data works in most of the countries except US and Canada. So when you don't have MLS function, you don't have association, there is no cooperation. What that means, usually seller agent and buyer agent, they are same entity, they are same person. You don't have cooperation platform between agents to work as seller agent or buyer agent and basically exchange the business, as you can see in US, for example, in MLS concept. The other issue is basically invalid listings, which is the most important problem created by business-oriented web portals. And what that means that, for example, you can find a lot of fake listings, double listings, outdated listings, sold listings presented as active listings just to generate leads. This means you will find FSBO websites not credible, and at the same time you can see agents, they are uploading the listings just to generate leads and without considering any kind of validation process or any kind of regulation to keep the listing updated or keep the listing validated during the time. So for instance, if they sell a listing, there is no motivation for them, or there is no regulation, or there is no even a system to take the listing off the portals. You still will have that database kind of kept dirty, sometimes just, as I said, like to generate leads and nothing else. We consider the client like end user, buyer or seller. For them, the situation is even worse. For instance, they cannot trust a listing when they are searching portals because they know 95% can be fake or outdated. They don't know how they can find a proper listing unless they start calling different agencies. There is no connected system, as I said, like MLS, to exchange listings between agencies. So if they are looking or searching for specifically seller markets, if they are looking for a listing, they're supposed to search different agencies. Sometimes they don't have even a proper website. So what they do, they really walk in to their office or to their shop, and they ask if they have certain type of for instance, apartment in their budget. So you can imagine for end users, it's even more frustrating. But how all of this can solve by RESO Web API? That's a good question that we try to answer in one of our implementations in Georgia, the country, and we are going to discuss that in the case study. The role of RESO Web API in this is to create the MLS function without hassles or expensive software or servers that usually need for MLS function. So first thing first, like the cost. As a development company with resources and experience on both Threads and RESO Web API, we found RESO Web API can be 45% to 65% more cost effective in the time of implementation and deployment for broker companies, specifically because of a straight way of documentation, the perfect endpoints, and futuristic nature of RESO Web API is pretty cost effective and easy to implement. It can save both time and money in that process. Now, why this is important in international markets? You see, like most of the associations in United States, they have proper budget for implementation of MLS servers. Like they can pay thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to implement a REST server. Like they did that already, and for other markets, that's not the case. For other markets, because there is no association, you should present something pretty cost effective before creating the culture of MLS in that country. You cannot ask agents to pay a membership fee, like a hefty membership fee, to their association for covering the cost of MLS server. They are not going to do that. But they are ready to test the system almost free of charge. If they are finding it useful, okay, then you can ask them for membership fees or something like this, like a type of fee or budget. So RESO Web API is a cost-effective method. We can see that implementation of that is even easier. You don't need that much of technical resources that usually you need for implementation of RedSpeed with a very strange mapping function in RESO Web API. You can have access to the documentation, to the implementation way easier than REDS. And all of this will play a very important role in international markets to consider this standard as the way to go for establishing their first MLS. So rather than migrating from REDS to RESO API, the first experience can start with RESO Web API. The second subject that RESO Web API can solve is verification for the listings. When you have centralized RESO Web API platform in a country, you will have a system to verify the listings, verify agent IDs, implement the UPI, Unique Property ID, which thanks to inventors of UPI, it has the country code. Like we really appreciate that to consider it in the UPI documentation. And this gives leverage to associations to create code of ethics based on that, like technology and at the same time a structure to establish the associations, giving them necessary power to verify the listings through a system that can help agents, clients, and basically ethical players, I should say, in the market to avoid double listings or fake listings, which meant just to be used for lead generation. In RESO Web API, you can send a query in certain format to make sure a listing and listing ID is valid. And that's exactly what we implemented in Realtyna platform, that we are gonna discuss in the case study. So we talked about the cost, we talked about easier implementation, and now the third item that can be addressed by RESO Web API is the standard. Basically, in some countries, the reason that you cannot find the MLS server is disagreement, a strong disagreement about how uh, database standard should look like. What is the standard that all basically agents or all um, real estate professionals can agree on? That's a big question. And it hasn't been easy to answer in a country like France, for example. You have two like large associations dealing with real estate, one by traditional real estate agents, and the other is by lawyers. And now the discussion is what is the standard and what will be the standard in the industry. And I think when this is actually our experience, when the standard is already defined and is already widely used in US, other countries are going to adopt it way easier. That's exactly the case about RESO Web API. Um, when we had a discussion about, okay, why this standard, the answer was pretty satisfactory. Like what we answered was like, because this standard already like tweaked, already developed, already deployed within US industry, and this means we can save a lot of cost and resources in your country implementing the same standard without going through the whole experience of try and error. And this was the discussion that we got a positive answer. The case study. The case study that we are going to discuss is about Georgia, the country. Georgia has a great real estate association. They are in touch with NAR Global. They actually received considerable help from NAR Global program, and they are establishing the first MLS foundation in the country. And we found this is going to be great test for a new product, Realty Feed, which is based on RESO Web API, and at the same time, it's going to be great help for them as well. So we decided to support uh, their program for establishing the MLS Foundation, and we gave their agents the access to a social network called Realty That's actually our product, which is based on RESO Web API. In the beginning, it was a little bit difficult to adopt the new technology, but after a while, the first like 3 to 4 brokerage companies that they decided to exchange the data with each other, they adopted the technology and they started to exchanging data. And now we should say that we are ready to provide this to more than 200 to 300 brokerage companies, each one like with several agents, to create the MLS concept and using RESO Web API platform to exchange the data without spending that much or without discussion over the standard or with great efficiency, I should say. Um, so the reduction of the fake listings in portals is considerable now because the clients they learned to trust the listings with the badge that is basically if the listing is pulled from like RESO Web API or authenticated by RESO Web API query, it has a badge, and they learned basically that this listing is trustworthy. Now, this helped them to to generate quality leads for real listings. And now it is becoming part of the culture. Now we can see that the same pattern can be implemented in other countries pretty easy, because the database structure is pretty flexible. By adding or removing a few fields, we can implement it in other countries as well. And all of this, again, thanks to RESO Web API. I really and strongly believe that RESO Web API is a platform that can be used globally, by our experience, and it can save a lot of hassles implementing different type of standards in each country. And RESO should act as a global organization for setting real estate standards, because in the future it's gonna help a lot of, at least in our case, like software development companies or basically programmers, to find new markets for their software, without going through a lot of trouble understanding the standard or in that country, or tackling the issues that they should never face if they followed such great platforms since the beginning. As a company with global clients, we always take the opportunity to introduce RESO as a solution to a lot of standardization problems in different countries. So we feel that pretty soon we are going to have clients from specifically European countries, also underdeveloped countries in Asia, and other countries that we are working with for implementation of RESO Web API. I want to take this opportunity to thank the architects of RESO Web API, and specifically UPI as well, because they considered international markets and international opportunities in their standards. It's pretty helpful, and at the same time, we think that whatever goes around comes around. Like one day when the standard implemented in globally and perfectly, the database exchange, inter-country database exchange will be easier, and at the same time, like real estate market in US can benefit from that as well. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.